clear of conflict.
Airbus 320 contact Seoul departure on 121.4. Good day.
121.4 Airbus 320. Goodbye. Seoul departure Airbus 320 is at 1,000 feet climbing 7,000 feet.
Airbus 320 Seoul departure altimeter 30.09 radar contact. Continue to 5 Kilo India Papa. Airbus 320 climb and maintain 17,000 feet.
Climb and maintain 17,000 feet Airbus 320.
Airbus 320 contact Incheon Center on 125.45. Good day.
125.45 Airbus 320. Goodbye.
G2 Air 106 heavy traffic is 12 o'clock 2 miles at 8,500 feet Airbus A20N. Report them in sight.
Incheon Center Airbus 320 is at 9,300 feet climbing 17,000 feet.
G2 Air 106 heavy contact Seoul approach on 119.1. Good day. Airbus 320 Incheon Center altimeter 30. 130 heavy traffic is 12 o'clock 4 miles at 17,100 feet Airbus A20N. Report them in sight. Asiana 107 heavy traffic is 1 o'clock 2 miles at 14,000 feet Airbus A20N. Report them in sight. Jeju Air 1302 heavy have the traffic. Asiana 107 heavy, you are 53 miles east. Descend and maintain 3,600 feet. Expect ILS runway tree right approach via Impel transition. Clear to Impel. Asiana 107 heavy, you are 54 miles southeast. Descend and maintain 6,000 feet. Expect ILS runway tree right approach via Impel transition. Clear to Impel. Descend and maintain 3,600 feet. Expect ILS runway tree right approach via Impel transition. Clear to Impel Asiana 107 heavy.
traffic. maintain 11,000 feet. Airbus 320.
Airbus 320, contact Guangzhou, approach on 130.0. Good day.
130.0 Airbus 320. Goodbye. Guangzhou approach. Airbus 320 is passing 11,700 feet, descending 11,000 feet.
Airbus 320, Guangzhou, approach altimeter 30.09 radar contact. Continue to JB 704. Airbus 320, contact Incheon Center on 125.45. Good day.
125.45 Airbus 320. Goodbye. Incheon Center. Airbus 320 11,000 feet.
Airbus 320, Incheon Center, altimeter 30.09 radar contact. Continue to VASA. Airbus 320, contact Guangzhou, approach on 130.0. Good day.
130.0 Airbus 320. Goodbye. Guangzhou approach. Airbus 320 11,000 feet.
Airbus 320, Guangzhou, approach altimeter 30.09 radar contact. Continue to VASPA. Airbus 320, descend and maintain 5,000 feet.
Descend and maintain 5,000 feet. Airbus 320.
Airbus 320, contact Incheon Center on 125.45. Good day.
125.45 Airbus 320. Goodbye. Incheon Center. Airbus 320 is passing 10,700 feet, descending 5,000 feet.
Airbus 320, Incheon Center, altimeter 30.09 radar contact. Continue to Pigro. Airbus 320, you are 16 miles east. Descend and maintain 6,000 feet. Expect ILS Yankee runway 01 approach via Mike Uniform November 225 radial 15 DME ARC. Clear to Mike Uniform November.
Descend and maintain 6,000 feet. Expect ILS Yankee runway 01 approach via Mike Uniform November 225 radial 15 DME ARC. Clear to Mike Uniform November. Airbus 320.
Airbus 320, contact Guangzhou, approach on 130.0. Good day.
Going to 130.0 Airbus 320. Guangzhou approach. Airbus 320 is at 6,400 feet, descending 6,000 feet.
Airbus 320, Tree 20, you are 900 feet below your assigned altitude. Climb and maintain 6,000 feet altimeter, tree 0.11.
Climb and maintain 6,000 feet Airbus Tree 20.
Airbus Tree 20, please expedite your climb 6,000 feet. Airbus Tree 20, please expedite your climb 6,000 feet. Airbus Tree 20, please expedite your climb 6,000 feet. Airbus Tree 20, please expedite your climb 6,000 feet.
5.
Could you please connect the jetway to the aircraft?
Airbus 320, the jetway is going to be connected.
Ground Airbus 320, could you please send a fuel truck?
Airbus 320, a fuel truck is on the road.
Ground Airbus 320, could you please send a ground power unit?
Airbus 320, a ground power unit is on the road.
Ground Airbus 320, could you please send the baggage?
Airbus 320, baggage is on the way.
Ground Airbus 320, could you please send the catering truck?
Airbus 320, the catering truck is on the road.
ACU press indicator. Check. Park BRK handle. On. Brakes press indicator. Check. Anti-ice. Off. APU bleed push button switch. On. All engine masters. Off. Slide disarmed. Check. Seat belt switch. Off. Beacon lights. Off. Other exterior lights. As required. Fuel pumps. Off. ATC. STBY. APU bleed. On. Engines. Off. Seat belts. Off. Exterior lights. As required. Fuel pumps. Off. Park brake and chocks. As required. Transponder. As required. Park BRK. On. Oxygen crew supply push button. Off. All IR mode selectors. Off. Exterior lights. Off. APU bleed push button switch. Off. EXT PWR push button. Off. APU master SW. Off. Emergency exit LT switch. Off. Signs switch. Off. BAT 1 and 2. Off. Adheres. Off. Oxygen. Off. APU bleed. Off. Emmer exit LT. Off. Signs. Off. APU and BAT 1 to 2. Off.